And we are live.
Cool. And I guess I'll start with an introduction and we'll go into it. They can hear me or not?
They can hear you.
Oh, snap. All right, I'll be measured. Okay, cool. Hi, Rich. My name is Lee Juaso. I've been a content creator for a couple years, and I'm interested from your perspective as someone that's had a lot of experience dealing in the corporate realm, of some insight to some tactics that content creators use and kind of what we can do different, especially as the standards for business are changing. And a lot of the tricks that we use are kind of being exposed. So my first question is, do you think that tactics like clickbait or like thirst traps or like yapping are okay for like getting us a really fast audience, and maintaining them? And can we build a sustainable business out of that? Or is it better to build like a strong foundation with our audience and build a good connection to our audience so that we can have customers that'll be with us in the future?
That's a great question. And thank you for taking the time out. I love the opportunity to give back and have impact. Let's, to get right to it, while thirst trapping and selling sex and fear have worked on the masses forever, it's my opinion that Gen Z is really not falling for it. I think Gen X falls for it. Some millennials fall for it, but I think Gen Z is completely unimpressed. They see right through it, which is why political campaigns that would have worked, say, 10 years ago, wouldn't have a chance in hell right now. Gen Z are leading the way. They're entering the workforce. These are people that are aged, 12 to 27, and they're not for the bullshit, right? They want respect, they want honor, they want integrity, they want straight up. And if they don't get it, you're not going to have a sustainable relationship with them. So to build relationship with a target market over the long term, I would say no, avoid thirst trapping. I would say avoid using sex and triggering fear to move the masses, because percentage while there's a percentage of the masses while there's a percentage of the masses that fall for that, the majority, should I use Eckhart Tolle's term, the awakening of the masses is occurring, and they want sustainable relationships with the brands they interact with.
That makes sense. There's a company that I love called Uniqlo, and they're like H&M kind of, and they do all these really cool collaborations with artists. And I learned
Oh,
about them because they did a collaboration with Shonen Jump, which is the company that makes a lot of the manga that later become anime like Naruto and Bleach and Dragon Ball and stuff like that. And through that, I learned of their collaboration with other artists like Cause and like brands like Charlie Brown and Sesame Street. And their connection to the artists that I love are the reason that I started appreciating Uniqlo. We're now about to go buy a Uniqlo hoodie that doesn't have any art on it, just because I've come to enjoy the brand and the quality of their products. But it all came from that relationship, that authentic relationship that they had with creators.
yeah, that's big. That's big. Authentic relationship lends itself to sustainability where I want to say tricks, tips, tricks, gimmicks. We can just call it bullshit. Bullshit works on the short term, right? You put a sexy woman on the screen, every man's going to look. The thirsty man is his mouth's going to water. They're all going to wish they were sleeping with her that night. But you know, is that your audience, right? Because an entrepreneur, especially a millennial or Gen Z entrepreneur, is going to see right through that. They're gonna understand exactly what's happening, and a growing percentage of them are going to be offended, right? Why are we using old school misogynistic tactics to drive revenue growth?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting when I was running my e-commerce fashion brand that the people that were the most vocal supporters of my page were women, but the people that bought the most things were men, and the people that
Mm,
posted about buying the most things were women. So I misinterpreted that as my audience being majority women, when really the validation that I gave the women that chose to support my brands by posting them caused a positive feedback loop where they wanted to buy more clothes so that they could continue being featured on the page.
that's
And the
real.
men liked it. And because the men liked it, they shared it. And that brought more men, which then brought more women. And it cycled in a really funny way.
Right. So it does have its pluses in the short term, right? If it's something behind it, which I know you, so there was something behind it, right? So there was some substance to keep them there once they got there. Using a little bit of provocative marketing, it works. I wrote a post 2 months ago on LinkedIn that said marketing is dead. I had 5 marketing people inbox me, ha, nice trick. I had 2 marketing people comment live on LinkedIn on the post, oh my God, how can you say this? What if I said sales is dead? And I didn't respond. I just laughed. Like, you're in marketing and you can't tell a provocative post from any other post. That's because the average American is oversensitive right now. They're overstimulated and they react to every stimulant. This, for the marketer, for the creative, for your community, this is where the bag is. How do I trigger you and make you feel good? Because everything's triggering people. How do I trigger you and make you feel good and give you a safe place to land after all of that? I mean, that's gold.
Yeah, given the time that we live in, especially as people would say oftentimes, oversensitive nature of like millennials and Gen X and Gen Z and stuff, we see a rise in number one, the biggest problem that employers are talking about with like millennials and Gen Z and so on is that these generations aren't the best at communicating and these generations aren't the best at operating in groups. And we also see that like post-pandemic now, there's even worse communication skills and social skills being developed due to that little lapse in time, but also due
Yeah.
to having so many options for engagement on the internet. What do you think are some ways that we as this generation can build the skill of better communicating and better being understood?
That's a great question. I think that the you and I are the best example. So both of us have a leash on our egos. So we're able to speak honestly and directly without hurt feelings with one another, right? That
Mm-hmm.
skill, not feeling it, not taking it personal, seeking understanding before reacting, before feeling at all. Like, if we stop, and Stephen Covey said this, seek to understand, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Right? Because if I take myself out of it and I focus on understanding you and where you're coming from, now when I respond or now when I share my point of view, I have enough information to share my point of view in such a way that I know you'll understand it. Now the communication gap is bridged. But if I ignore everything you said, I'm just sitting there quiet because I'm waiting to talk instead of listening to understand what's being said and getting to know who I'm conversing with better, then I'm screwing myself. I'm not really making progress. Right. So
Right.
yeah.
Hmm. Cool. And we also live in this era where theoretically speaking, the job market is like short and there's all these theoretical jobs that are opening. We see a lot of people attempting to feel free by taking like gig jobs and engaging with the gig economy What do you think are some downsides to people that think they're going to buy their freedom with the gig economy, especially given that, for example, when you're like driving Uber, there are costs of like the maintenance of a car and gas that people are considering, or